Hi friends, thanks so much for joining me for this tutorial to get started on our Illuminated letter. I hope by now you've gotten a chance to take a look through our Google Slides to see the historical significance of illuminated letters and also to see some examples. So what I'd like to do first is to show you how I created our border. So what I thought was we could create a 1-inch border all around. That way we can work on eventually a pattern to go around our letter. But in the meantime, I wanted to show you. So I created dots around the corners of my paper. And all I did to do that was take a 1-inch space here, 1 inch here, and I marked that space with a dot. And I did the same thing around all the corners. Now I wanted to leave the borders open in the corners. So all I did was I laid out my ruler and traced it over top. And I left the corners open. Then what I did was I took my crayon. I had a crayon that was partially broken and I just unwrapped the rest of it. And this is going to give you a little bit of a calligraphy effect with your letter. So you can decide to do your first initial or your last initial. In this case, I decided on my last initial. And then basically you take the crayon, turn it on its side, like you're going to shade. And then you're just going to write as though you're creating a script letter. And if you do that with your crayon on its side, up, down, and around, or however your letter is supposed to go, it will actually create a calligraphy effect. Now, one thing I want to point out is that I went over my letter pretty heavily. I pressed on my crayon pretty hard because I wanted you to be able to see it on camera. In real life, though, in person, you should really press gently because you just want a little bit of a hint of that background. That way you can layer over it with whatever medium you decide on or have at home. So if you wanted to color it in crayon or paint or crayons, whatever you have at home, you have that flexibility to color it in whatever shade you want. Okay. So again, the first two steps to be able to create this project are that border and create your calligraphy shape inside. Okay. The next thing I want you to think about that we're going to continue on in our next lesson is kind of your inspiration for who you are. And I'll share mine. So mine is this. This happens to be the seal that you see. It's the seal of New Jersey, but you happen to see it when you go to a place called Shepherd Lake in New Jersey. And it reflects the fact that there are forests and parks in New Jersey that I love to hike in. There are also obviously beaches and ocean fronts, which I like to surf, and I more recently have taken up paddleboarding. So these really represent, these two graphic pieces represent kind of all of what I want to show on my initial, because that has to do with me. So I'm going to use some of these elements in my artwork, and I wanted to share that with you because if you can start to think about just some graphic patterns or elements that you can add into your letter, that's going to really create a beautiful effect. So again, the more graphic it is, the more simple, the better off it's going to stand out when you actually add it to your letter or your border. So I'm just, again, sharing this as some inspiration. This is what I'm going to be working on as we check back in next week. And I just wanted to show you, these are some of the things you're actually going to see as my elements in my letter. So see if you can find something that really speaks to you, whatever sport you're into, maybe musical notes, something like that, whatever the shape is of that activity. See if you can think about it to inspire you and add to your letter. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope this helps you get started, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.